A printing press hums in the darkness. The windows are shuttered. The door is locked. And in the cellar of a quiet university in Munich, students lean over ink-stained pages, setting type, folding paper, watching the clock. They know what will happen if they're caught. Torture, trial, death. But still, they print. It is 1942. Across Germany, the Nazi war machine grinds forward. Cities echo with marching boots. Propaganda clogs every wall. Dissent is treason, and silence has become the law of survival. But in the shadow of that silence, a small group dares to speak. They call themselves the White Rose. At the heart of it are Hans and Sophie Scholl, siblings, students, former members of the Hitler Youth, now horrified by what they've seen. With friends, they begin to write and distribute anonymous pamphlets condemning the regime. They quote Goethe, Aristotle, the Bible. They speak not as soldiers, but as citizens, begging Germans to resist. The German name will be dishonored for all eternity. One pamphlet reads, "Why do you not rise up in revolt?" They write in secret, print at night, mail them across cities, leave them in telephone booths, stuff them into textbooks, drop them in mail slots. Every copy is a risk, every signature a death sentence. But the word spread. 6 pamphlets circulate across Germany, thousands of copies, first in Munich, then to Hamburg, Stuttgart, Cologne, Frankfurt, even Vienna. Professors quietly pass them to students. Clerks leave them in offices. Strangers read them, then burn them, terrified but stirred. The White Rose was more than a protest. It was a whisper of conscience in a nation suffocating under fear. These were not seasoned revolutionaries. They were med students, philosophy majors, artists, children of the very system they opposed. In their words were not just outrage, but grief, regret, pleas to awaken the moral soul of their country. They described the mass murders in Poland, the silence of neighbors, the erasure of Jews, dissidents, the disabled. They called these acts what they were, crimes against humanity. And then, in February 1943, the tide of the war begins to shift. The Germans lose at Stalingrad. Thousands dead, spirits shaken, doubt begins to grow. So Hans and Sophie take one final risk. They arrive at the University of Munich with a suitcase full of pamphlets. Between lectures, they scatter them across the halls, down staircases, over balconies, letting them fall like snow. A janitor sees them. He alerts the Gestapo. They're arrested within hours. What follows is swift and brutal. Interrogation, trial, a judge known for death sentences, no lawyer, no defense, just defiance. Sophie stands tall in court. She says, "Somebody, after all, had to make a start." She does not beg. Hans remains defiant, unshaken. Christoph Probst, the third arrested, is a young father. He pleads for mercy. It is denied. On February 22, 1943, all 3 are executed by guillotine. They are 24, 21, and 23. Hans's last words are, "Long live freedom." But the story doesn't end in that prison cell. Their courage ripples outward. Other members of the White Rose are captured, tried, and killed. But their words live on. The 6th and final pamphlet is smuggled to the Allies, who reprint and drop millions of copies over Germany. The regime tried to erase them, but in death, they became louder. Today, the White Rose stands as a symbol, not of rebellion with weapons, but with truth, not of soldiers, but of students, ordinary young people who chose conscience over comfort and message over fear. There are streets named after them, statues, memorials, but more than that, there is memory. A reminder that courage can take the form of folded paper, of whispered words, of small hands working a printing press by candlelight. They didn't stop the war, but they proved something even more powerful, that even in the darkest regimes, even under threat of death, someone will always speak. Thank you for listening to Last Post History. Subscribe for more true stories from the world at war.